I live in a picturesque little housing development overlooking the Alvalon River, just a short drive away from Sombermory. It's surrounded by enough woods to muffle out the sound of traffic on the adjacent highway, and the road leading towards the neighborhood is so discreet that delivery drivers regularly have trouble finding it. It's always felt safe to me, secluded and isolated in a little bubble that the rest of the world seemingly couldn't find even if they want to. But that changed on October 1st. It was a gorgeous, crisp fall day, and the leaves on the giant maples and the oaks that surrounded our neighborhood were just starting to change colors. And I had gone out to get my mail from our pair of community mailboxes, the newer ones with the wind-blown maple leaves emblazoned onto the side. As I stepped out, however, I noticed that there was a small impromptu gathering in the neighborhood of Mr. Kalkowski's front lawn, fawning over something that I couldn't quite make out. Whatever the commotion was about, I figured it was probably worth delaying my junk mail for a few minutes, so I casually walked over to inspect the spectacle for myself. When my neighbors saw me approaching, they politely moved aside so I could get a clear view of whatever it was that had them so enamored. It was a jack-o'-lantern man, a snowman made of jack-o'-lanterns. There were three hollowed-out pumpkins stacked on top of each other, and together stood about 5 feet high. The top pumpkin had been carved with a fairly stereotypical jack-o'-lantern face, but the bottom had been carved so that it looked like the figure was dressed in a brocade 19th century suit. "Is that real?" I asked incredulously. While it was obviously completely possible for it to be real, it seemed far more likely that it was some sort of mass-produced plastic Halloween decoration. "It's absolutely real, Mr. Lacombe," the preteen girl, Lorianne, easily assured me excitedly, her eyes shining like it was a Christmas morning. She stuck her finger inside the jack-o'-lantern's mouth and it ran along the side inside, and it was pulled out to reveal still fresh seeds and pulp. "See?" I stepped closer, tentatively poked at the fleshy fruit of each of the three pumpkins. They looked so real, felt real, and smelt real, and thus I can only conclude that they were in fact real. "These are remarkably intricate carvings," I muttered as I ran my hand along the middle pumpkin. I glanced up towards the elderly Kowalski, who just looked like he was taking everything he had not to yell at us to get off of his damn lawn. "Didn't you make this, did you?" "What do you think?" he asked, holding up his clearly arthritic hands. "No, the damn thing was there when the sun came up. Someone must have dropped it off in the night. Very peculiar. My gut reaction was that it was some prank of some kind, but the thing's too beautiful for what to make it any kind of sense." "And no one else saw anything?" I asked, turning around to face the rest of the neighbors, whom all shook their heads. "I'll look over my security footage later, but I don't think we'll have a very clear view of Kowalski's place at night," Heidi, Lorian's mom, offered as she used a wet one to clean Lorian's hands. "I'll send out some emails and put a notice on the bulletin board asking about it, but I'm sure it's just a surprise Halloween decoration. If it is, it was poorly thought of. This thing will be a pile of mush by Halloween," Kowalski said with a shake of his head, giving the pile of pumpkins a disdainful whack with his cane before turning to go back inside his house. "You damn well better know who's responsible for this before then, because I'm not cleaning it up." "Wait, Mr. Kowalski! I want to get a picture of it with the jack-o'-lantern man while we're all out here together," Lorianne pleaded, excitedly waving her phone in the air. Kowalski stopped in his tracks, hung his head, and let out a furiously reluctant sigh before turning around and joining the rest of us for a group photo. Lorianne posted the pictures she took of Jack-o'-lantern Man on her Instagram, and I decided to run a reverse image search to see if I could get any insight of who made it. The results were unexpected. I thought I could get the results of local craftsperson or something, but instead the algorithm matched it with a picture on HeroiCHallows.net, a local paranormal discussion forum. The picture was a black and white illustration from an old newspaper article, maybe as far as back as the 19th century, depicting a much more monstrous and ferocious looking jack-o'-lantern man. According to the poster, the jack-o'-lantern man started inexplicably appearing in nearby, though suspiciously nameless, hamlet on October 1st. There were exactly 30 homes in the hamlet, and each day until Halloween, a new jack-o'-lantern man would arrive in the wee hours of the morning, with no one ever seeing where it had come from. That detail unsettled me a little, since our housing development had also exactly 30 homes. Anyway, all manner of misfortunes started to befall on this sleepy hamlet, and increasingly paranoid villagers blamed the orange interlopers. They tried destroying or moving them, of course, but each morning they'd be back like nothing had ever happened. Some of the villagers, children at first, but some later adults, claimed to have seen the jack-o'-lantern men moving around at night, wreaking as much havoc and destruction as they could without getting caught. Naturally, the villagers' hysteria grew stronger the closer it got to Halloween, fearing some sort of inevitable climax on the 31st. Some fled, of course, and some stayed, but ultimately it didn't matter. None of them were ever heard from again. There were no physical remains, no signs of violence or bloodshed. They were just gone. The rest of the forum thread was just increasingly bizarre and baseless speculation about the nature and veracity of the event, and quickly became silly enough to put my mind at ease regarding any similarity to my current situation. I didn't give it any more thought until I came home from work that night and saw that the jack-o'-lantern man had been lit up. It struck me as odd, given Mr. Kakwowski's seemingly exasperation with the thing, but maybe one of the neighbors had lit it up instead. The next morning, when the sound of Lorian's joyful, excited cries came in through my open windows, I tried to deny that they were filled with the obnoxious sense of dread. I cautiously stepped out of my door, and sure enough, there was another jack-o'-lantern man in our neighborhood. It was right next door to Kakwowski's house, the Cranor Place, number 2 Willow Wood Crescent. It wasn't identical to the previous one either, clearly made from free, real, once-living pumpkins with its own distinct design carved into them. I don't suppose anyone saw where it came from, did they? I asked with much hope as I approached the crowd of onlookers, its size suppressing the one from the day before. No one, which was pretty damn weird when you think about it, Jeremiah Cronner remarked, more confused than concerned by the jack-o'-lantern man's presence. This thing's not exactly light, but there are no marks on the lawn from someone dragging it, like it just popped out of the ground where it is. Do you think they're magic? Lorian asked, jumping up and down. They are mysterious, Lorian. Let's leave it at that for now, Jeremiah replied, noncommittally, not wanting to crush her exuberance. I'm going to ask my Aunt Samantha to come look at these. She's a witch, so she'll know if they're magic, Lorian proclaimed. Sweetheart, we've been over this. Your Aunt Samantha is not a real witch. Lorian's mother reprehended her gently. She just gets lonely and got taken by a new age cultist, and now works for her as a brainwashed fake psychic. Lorian rolled her eyes at her mother's rationalism, but didn't argue with her. Hey, Kakwowski, Stack-O-Lantern's been moved, I heard Tyler shout. We all turned to see where he was pointing, and sure enough, the jack-o'-lantern man was now right up against Kakwowski's front window, peering inside. There were no signs of it being hauled across the lawn, not one blade of grass out of shape, and yet there it was, as if though it was portable as an inflatable Halloween decoration. Lorian and excitedly ran over to the jack-o'-lantern and began knocking at Mr. Kowalski's window, only to scream when she saw what was inside. Her mother and several others immediately ran over to see what was wrong, And as Heidi comforted her daughter as the others either called an ambulance or tried to break their way into the house. Kakowski had suffered a massive heart attack and he was lying dead on his living room floor when Lauren found him. The EMTs estimated the time of death was just after sunrise. The prevailing fury among the neighborhood was that the sight of the jack-o'-lantern man at his window had been what triggered the heart attack, and most of us wanted to know who was responsible for it. No one wanted to fess up, and I decided to keep the urban legend I had read about to myself, so no one really had anything to go on. But even without knowing the legend of the Harrowegg Hollows, a lot of people suspected that another jack-o'-lantern man would be gracing our neighborhood come October 3rd. Everyone who had anything that could be used as a security camera made sure that they were set up and activated, and pointed towards the house number that if it was possible. We also coordinated the watch around our work and sleep schedules as much as we could, ensuring we had the best chance of catching whoever was responsible for these things in the act. That night, as I kept my vigil on the porch, I saw the lights on both jack-o'-lantern men spring to life, even though I knew nobody would have dared to light them now. Come October 3rd, there was a grand total of 3 jack-o'-lantern men, and the first 2, while still on their original properties, had moved as well. None of our cameras had caught their movement, and by now we were all starting to get seriously unsettled. Granner, most of all, if these things were here to pick us off one by one, then it made sense that he'd expect to be next. Tyler was the first one to try and get rid of these damn things, and called some of his friends to help them load onto his pickup truck. I don't remember where he planned on taking them, or what he was going to do with them, because it didn't matter. Before he could even get out of the neighborhood, one of his back tires exploded and he lost control and crashed into a street lamp. Nobody died that day, and Tyler himself was fine aside from a whiplash, but that was when most of us became convinced that these things were cursed. Each day a new jack-o'-lantern man would appear at the next house, and the ones who were already present would have changed positions, all without being seen or recorded. They all didn't decay as the days ticked by either, always reappearing as if they'd been freshly carved. Dogs hated them, but they were probably just picking up their owner's unease. Nobody wanted to try moving them again. Not after what happened with Tyler. There were no more heart attacks or car crashes after that, but the threat of the jack-o'-lantern man posed still loomed all over us. Each morning we regularly find things broken or missing. The jack-o'-lantern men seemingly to blame. They had a tendency to block off driveways, doorways, and garages, or sit in flower beds or play equipment. It was almost as if they were daring us to move them, but we just worked around them rather than risk it. We didn't talk about them much after the first couple days, and never within sight or earshot of them. We had come to the general consensus that they were all trying to control us, to egg us into somehow disrespecting them, to give them license for revenge. It was around the middle of the month when Lorianne came knocking at my door. When I answered her, I found her standing next to a woman with long red hair, clad in a red dress and cloak, with a pentagram necklace and a triple moon belt buckle on a prompted display. I'm going to put out on a limb here and guess that you're Aunt Samantha, I presume. Yes, that's right. I am Samantha Summer. I'm a metaphysical counselor and spiritual wellness advisor at Eve's Eden of Astoria in town. She spoke confidently, as if those were actually valuable crescendos. It wasn't hard to see why Lorianne's mother had described her as a brainwashed fake psychic. Lorianne asked me to stop by and take a look at the jack-o'-lantern entities that have been manifesting in your neighborhood. Yeah, they've just been popping up one after the another all month. No one wants to know what just came out and say is supernatural, but it's pretty damn weird that we've never been able to see who's doing this. I admitted it, awkwardly rubbing the back of my neck. Well, I can confirm you all of these jack-o'-lantern entities are definitely paranormal, she said with confidence. I have been honing my clairvoyance for the past 3 years now, and there's no doubt in my mind that these jack-o'-lanterns are serving as earthly bindings for some manner of non-human spirits. The bindings are strong enough that they can last and manifest some minor misfortunes, and I suspect at night, when nobody's watching them, they'd be able to manipulate the jack-o'-lanterns directly. I see, I nodded, humoring her at first. I was unable to deny the fact that I had no rational explanation for how they were moving or getting fresh candles. Well, do you have any idea why this is happening? Unfortunately, no. I have found no records of at least one similar event over a century ago, but I wasn't able to find any clear cause for that matter, she admitted. What I do know is that these kinds of spirits demand respect. Don't try and move or damage them. They'll have no cause to retaliate. You can also buy some goodwill with the token of sacrifice, like a coin or a piece of candy. Aunt Samantha, I have already fed Halloween candy to each of the jack-o'-lanterns that are already there, and I will fed any new ones to try and keep them from hurting anyone else, Lorian said doggedly. She was clearly still shaken up by Kakowski's death. Well, as I was too, and it was kind of heartwarming to see how determined she was to keep the rest of us safe. I smiled warmly at her, while her aunt gave me a consoling pat on the back. Is there anything I can do? I asked. Just avoid disrespecting the jack-o'-lanterns, and when yours appears, be sure to honor it with a small sacrifice of some kind, Samantha replied. For good measure, you can make a sacrifice with them as well. Avoid them at night as much as you can. They are stronger in the veil because the physical and spiritual planes is weaker. It's weaker at night, and it will be the weakest of all on Halloween. I don't know what's going on to happen on Halloween, but if you can avoid offending them, I think you should be okay. If you'd like, I can perform a blessing on your home to make it a little harder for any malicious spirits to harm you. No charge. With a reluctant sigh, I let the potentially crazy woman into my house. She did a little ritual and left me with her business card in case I want to invest in any sort of protective charms they sold as well. Well, that did make me start to wonder if the whole thing might have been just some elaborate guerrilla the marketing campaign, but I couldn't deny that what Samantha did of them was sincere in her convictions. I watched through my window as she and Lorian went over to Tyler's house, only to be shooed away by Jehovah's Witnesses. He was still pissed with the jack-o'-lantern man over his truck and neck, and I knew he wasn't going to follow their advice. Somehow, that gave me a very uneasy feeling in the pit of my stomach. The next day, I and probably everyone else in the neighborhood were woken up to the sounds of Tyler's cursing. He had gotten his jack-o'-lantern man, and it appeared to be on the roof of his truck. It seems they have finally crossed that line that none of us could abide by. As I watched helplessly, as an enraged Tyler climbed onto the back of his pickup truck and furiously shoved the jack-o'-lantern man onto the asphalt below, the pumpkins cracked, but largely remained intact, which Tyler apparently thought it was a fate too good for them. He grabbed what I think was a monkey wrench from the toolbox from his truck and just started pulverizing the thing, stomping its hide until it was mush. He was so engrossed with his vengeance that he didn't notice when he was parking his brake in his truck suddenly gave out and started rolling down his inclined driveway. I watched as it swerved seemingly without cause and crashed into an electric pole. I'm not that psychic, but there was no way that truck was moving without enough technic energy to topple that pole. And yet somehow, that's exactly what happened. I heard it snap like a tree from a bolt of lightning, and saw it fell towards Tyler's house. Taut power lines snapped, flailed about wildly, and started a fire that would burn Tyler's house to the ground. Even in broad daylight, the smoke and flames from that inferno could be seen for miles. Tyler was devastated, of course, but more than that, he was terrified. A lot of us were terrified. We had no reason to think of that burning down Tyler's house would be enough to state the jack-o'-lantern's need for revenge. For all we knew, Tyler was a dead man, and we may all be next. The day after the house fire, Tyler's jack-o'-lantern man was in one piece again, holding a marshmallow on a stick over the smoldering rubble. A lot of us decided to leave the neighborhood after that, at least until after Halloween, but not me. I honestly didn't think running away would do any good, and if anything, I'd just be putting innocent bystanders in danger. I stayed placing spare change into the mouths of each and every jack-o'-lantern man, exactly as Samantha had said. Today, October 30th, was the last jack-o'-lantern man appeared, and it appeared on my lawn. I'm at house number 30, you see, right across the street from the Kakwalski's house, since it's a crescent and all. I slowly pulled back my curtains, knowing that it would be there, but dreading the confirmation nonetheless. It was the worst one so far. It was bigger, too. Bigger than I was in both height and girth. Its face was a monstrous, sneering gargoyle, or maybe perhaps like a Japanese Oni. Its bottom two pumpkins weren't carved resemble an outfit, but rather a medieval depictions of hell, embellished by the candle growing inside it. I noticed that, then, not only that the other jack-o'-lantern men had their candles and lit in the daytime, they were also burning brighter than they ever had before. Knowing what I had to do, I steeled up the courage and went outside, a bowl of Halloween candy in hand. I fed my jack-o'-lantern man first, and then went door to door to feed the rest of them. Lorian's family was among those that left, and I promised her I'd keep those offerings to the jack-o'-lantern men. I fortified my house a little, but what happened to Tyler's place is proof that won't stop them. I can only hope that we've managed to appease them, and they are all here now, all 30 of them, and they've got one night left to do whatever it is they're going to do. Tomorrow won't be children, but the jack-o'-lanterns doing the trick-or-treating, and I can only hope our treats will be enough to starve off their tricks.